Hello, everybody. Welcome to the weekly episode of Keystroke Medium. I can't even say it with a straight face.
Weekly.
Allegedly weekly.
Allegedly weekly. Yeah.
Sporadically weekly.
Ish. Very ish. Welcome, everybody, in the live chat. Let's see. Rick Partlow, who happens to be, I know on first-hand knowledge, he's on the road to Wyoming today to his new house, but he has look, here's the thing. Rick is going through a national, let's just say an almost continental move, and he's still the first comment of the day.
Transcontinental.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So he gets the golf clap of appreciation. Thank you, Rick Partlow, for being here. Corey, hello, what's up? Tom, what's up, buddy? Keith Taylor's in the house. Patricia Gillum is here. Hello, welcome. John Evans from across the pond. Kit, greetings all. Hello. There's a lot of people already in the chat today.
They're just running amok in the live chat before the show starts.
That's right. We have a special guest today, Steve Castle, or Jaime Beaulieu. And also, before we start the show, it's Scott's birthday. He turns 52 today, and he doesn't look.
Dude, I thought you were younger than that. I really did.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah, it's amazing because I thought at 50 I would have retired. Like, screw this place, I'm out.
You could have the decency to look the same age as me, at least.
Right.
All right, because we're practically the same age.
If you shave off every
if I was to go bald,
shave all the gray hair off. It works.
All right, maybe actually take a walk once in a while,
and then never get too close to anybody where they can see your exhaustion lines.
Are you doing anything special for your birthday today?
I mean,
aside from being on the show.
I went to Barnes & Noble and bought myself a birthday present, but I couldn't decide on a book, so I bought this journal that I'm going to use to make notes on a fantasy book that I'm going to eventually submit to Tradpub.
I like it. Scott goes to Barnes & Noble. It's like, I can't find anything I like, so I'll write my own.
I'll just write my own.
Yeah, write my own.
I love buying journals for exactly that reason.
Yeah.
Well, you can never have enough journals.
I have none. Zero.
I'm very spontaneous with the things I buy, but I go to the bookstore and have buyer's remorse, and I can't buy all the things I want, so I almost always leave without buying something.
Should I go buy a journal after this?
Yes.
Yeah,
you must.
Dear Diary, today I was on Keystroke.
I'm not sure why.
Best day of your life.
Josh had a strange blue screen that nobody understood.
So I thought when you had a blue screen, it was supposed to look better than the rest of us.
Right. So this is technically not a blue screen. It's a light.
Oh, it's lights.
And I have a green screen.
Mm-hmm.
But I only have the green screen because of the Bane podcast.
I miss your toys.
Their overlay and stuff while we're doing the show. So I have the green screen for that.
You can use the green screen to display larger photos of your dolls right behind you, they're
that's
true.
Yeah, I was thinking just green screen, just rows and rows of Chuckies and Buzz Lightyears and.
You know what would be cool?
All the
if
classic
I took a picture
toys
of my old wall and then put that on the green screen behind me.
Yeah, this is exactly like what I was
what
before,
would be better is take a picture of Scott's wall and put it on.
Oh, mind blown.
Scott, send me a picture of your wall.
I will. I'll do that.
Blue screen of valor, says Leo. That's right.
There you go.
So I think we're going to talk about some podcasting stuff today. We're going to talk about some whatever we want to talk about today. It's a roundtable, so we get to do what we want. But before we do that, let's go through updates. Steve, you're the guest on today's show, so you get to go first because we like to put the guests on the hot seat. Go.
I had a titillating conversation with Josh yesterday. Maybe it wasn't yesterday. That was the highlight of my week. Was a 2-hour phone call with Josh Hayes, international best-selling author, Dragon Award nominee, Bane podcaster, owner of many dolls and toys.
Yes, true. I like the way this show's going. Let's just do this all show. Let's just do
when you announce the entrance.
Credit to Josh.
First of his name.
First of his name.
Last of his mold. My day, my week, my week. I haven't seen you guys in 13 years, even though I still get about 150,000 posts a day on the Keystroke Medium chat. Kenneth Britz talks. He's got a lot to say in the Keystroke chat. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm still a part of things. I just, every now and then I pop in.
Yeah. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling we all get.
Well, I think here we're all here. I think all of us except Chuck, because Chuck is boring. He doesn't want to do this. He's not getting ready for Vegas like the rest of us.
I know.
No, he's coming.
No, he's not. We've been trying to get him to come for 4 years. We're like, you got to go, and he keeps telling us he can't.
It falls on my anniversary week. My wife does not like me to leave.
Bring her.
She won't go.
Falls on my wife's anniversary. Look,
Vegas is not her scene. Let me just say that.
Yeah. Are handsome authors her scene? Because man,
that would drill down to the heart of it.
So anyway, I'm getting ready for Vegas. What that means for me, I got a book I'm finishing up. I've promised myself that it'll be done before we leave. It's about 175,000 word epic fantasy book one. Writing it with Andy Peloquin, who's a good friend of mine. I like co-writing. I don't know if y'all have noticed that, and I enjoy the actual the camaraderie
behavior of this.
I just really prefer it to the loneliness of writing. Oh my gosh!
That is brilliant. I love that. I love that.
Look, I'm behind you, Scott. Ah!
This wins. It wins.
I should have got myself in this picture.
For those listening on the audio only, Josh has now put Scott's background on his green screen, and it looks like they're in the same room.
This is like some meta Twilight.
It's kind of funny.
You know what's really funny though is that Josh's is so much more clear.
It really is.
Can you send me a
if you want to know what Scott's bookshelves look like, look at my picture.
I mean, you can literally zoom in on the individual book titles.
50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 versions of that in there.
Male sexual dysfunction.
It's the graphic novel.
50 Shades of Gay. You have 50 Shades of Gay also. That's
going bald with grace. Yeah, you got to have all the variations of a classic like that.
Fascinating. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm finishing up. I'm getting ready for Vegas. I don't know. I mean, there's just stuff, right? I mean, it's just a bunch of stuff and life and all's well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Chuck, why don't you go next?
Oh my gosh. So let's see. Our last show was like 3 weeks ago, I think. Damn near 4 weeks ago. One of those weeks was fall break and had, just the kids were home and people were over and just all kinds of stuff going on. Daughter is still, neck deep in softball. Son's had play. I mean, it's really the same. Same old. Daughter got sick for a few days, just family. But I will show you this, especially since Steve's here, because he always makes me feel guilty by existing. This is what I wrote this morning on Jack Dark. Book 2, there's like 10 or 11 scenes here I have to finish. And I don't know if you see that last line, but it says Jack Dark will return in Dark Dimensions, which is book 3. So I've got like 10 or 11 scenes left to write in book 2, and I'll be done with that one.
The funny part is that anyone who's ever written for Athon knows that you don't hear a word from me.
I know.
Ever.
I'm not blaming you. It's me. Because I'm going to tell you something.
It's not you, it's me.
This is the first time I have ever told somebody, hey, I'll have it done by X. And for this agreement that we had, X was like a year and a half ago.
Those
Chuck comes to me, he's like, hey,
look, thank you, COVID.
Chuck's like, I had to go do such and such, so I'm about 2 weeks late. And I'm like, listen, dude, that was your own self-inflicted date that you had to get it to me.
It's all on me. I get it. You guys are awesome. When I tell somebody, hey, I'm going to be here then, I get very uptight about making sure I keep my word. So that's all me.
Authors not making their deadlines. Steve or Chuck.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, there's many that's come
well, you know,
you
Douglas Adams had the best quote about deadlines. He said, "I love deadlines. I like the whooshing sound they make as they fly by."
Yeah, it's a
Got to do the Doppler effect with it.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm almost done with that one, and I'll be jumping into book 3, which I've got pretty much outlined, and hopefully that won't take 2 years to write.
Awesome.
So.
If it will, it'll still be fast.
Scott's update, William Tyler Davis says, "Is there a meeting for Keystroke in Vegas?" He sent me a message about it yesterday, and I neglected to answer him, so I apologize, William Tyler. I did not mean to ignore you. I think there is going to be one. We're still trying to figure out logistics of where we're going to do it. And last year it was kind of a crapshoot to get to it, and it was kind of a shady, questionable place.
It was a team building exercise. We walked about a mile through dangerous terrain.
We played the game of "Are you a hooker or not?" And we're trying not to do that. He says he'll just ignore my TikToks. Yeah, true.
So when we were there 2 years ago, I'll tell this story. I don't know if anyone's heard it, and if they haven't, it's been a long time, right? So we are all staying. I know that it was Josh, Scott, Rick Partlow. Who else was there?
Which one at the meetup for?
No, our scenic route tour of Vegas.
Rhett was there.
Rhett, my wife, myself.
Chris Porto was with us.
So we're all staying at this place called the Park, MGM Park. I don't know if we all are, but that's where I was staying. That's where we met. I don't remember who else was there. So we meet at the park, and my wife's got some gluten issues. She can't eat everywhere that we want to go to in Vegas. So we had to find a specific place. We start walking. We cross the street. We're walking for about 5 minutes, looking on our phones for a place to go. And finally, I think it was Josh found this place, is this chicken place. And he's like, "This looks good." And my wife's
really good chicken.
She's like, that'll work. So we follow the GPS way down to the next street. And then I think somebody's like, "No, we'll just cross here. We'll do this." So listen, we walked for an hour and 30 minutes. Is that an exaggeration?
No, it's pretty close.
Hour and 30 minutes. We eat at this restaurant. Everyone enjoyed it. We go outside and we're like, all right, let's go back to the hotel. The hotel was directly next door.
Because we went in a different door and we came out.
So you basically looped around to the restaurant.
An entire hour and a half loop.
Hour and a half to go next door.
And it literally took us 5 minutes to get back to the hotel. Like, just whoop, there we go.
Kind of a happy ending, really. I mean,
the beauty was that we just had no idea.
Good chicken.
We ate the whole meal. We had no idea that we were just right next door. And then we left and we stood in front of this statue and we took pictures and we're like, cool, let's head back. We're all expecting this long jaunt. And we walked one door over. We're like, oh shit, this is our hotel.
Yep.
That's
a true story.
Awesome.
And everybody tried to blame it on me.
One person looking out the window while eating chicken. That looks like our hotel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Rick was there too.
Good stuff.
Good.
That was a good time.
That's good. I like that.
Wasn't there something about we couldn't figure out where to cross the street from because there was?
So they had a bunch of the bridges. They had these over bridges that were all closed. Yeah. For one reason or another, they were closed, and so we kept trying to cross different places and just couldn't. And at one point, we could have just turned backwards and we would have, saved 30 minutes. But who knows? We're in Vegas.
Right? I'm the navigator of valor.
Some orienteering in Vegas.
Charlie's in Florida today. Rick just left there.
What part of Florida? I must know.
Where are you at, trucker? Where are you driving through?
The flat part.
It's a flat part. The one next to the water. Scott, you go next.
So I don't know, back in September when we had our last show, I think I did a pretty thorough update.
He's written 18 books since then.
Yeah, since then, I finished 9 books. No, we went and met with our builder and put a deposit down on a new house we're going to build over on Josh's side of town. So that's pretty exciting. The bad news is I think builds now they said 7.5 to 8 months, but I bet it'll be longer than that just because there's supply chain issues at every step of the way.
Yeah, I bank on that, man.
Yeah, we met with the project supervisor. Now we're starting the process where you go pick out all the stuff, all the little things. You got to go like to the lumber place and pick out the sink faucet and blah 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 blah. So it's weird. There's like appointments on my calendar like every single day. I'm like, I normally sleep then. I can't wait till this is over. Yeah. But so we're excited about that. The kids are excited about it. I think it's gonna be a nice neighborhood to live in.
Get the Comfort Rise toilets. You want
for
those.
Sure.
Yeah.
We may not be able to afford them. We may have to just go out in the backyard at this
point.
You
go. Do what you got to do.
House.
Dude, you know what's crazy is when we bought this new house, I bought new toilet seats, which is something I would never have thought about 20 years ago. But now I'm like, God, I'm an old man, and I go to Lowe's specifically to buy toilet seats. But I got the ones that first of all, we had to get the kid ones that have the kid attached seat in it. So there's a small one, but they're also like the slow drop. So like you could just get it halfway there and it'll just go the rest of the way. Like it's like a Cadillac trunk. When you shut it, you don't slam it. You just shut it and then it closes by itself. Well, now every toilet I go to, I have to remember it's not. I'm at my in-laws' house and I'm like, all right, I'm done. I get it halfway there and let it drop, and their toilet seat's like granite, and it goes wow. And I really thought I was gonna crack their toilet bowl, and I was like, oh, I got to remember, don't drop the toilet seat. Quote that.
Yeah, there you go. Don't drop it. So probably what we need to worry about with the meetup is, I guess there's a lot more food options near Bolly's than there was at Samstown. So we should be able to find a place around there. Now we can pick the right evening when everybody's basically free.
Yeah.
So
I thought Ellen put up a poll. Maybe she was just saying if she was interested, and then we just need to figure out a day. Maybe I'll look at that.
I don't know when all the meetups are. Every time I look at the schedule and stuff, and on 20 books on the Facebook site and everything, I just kind of shut down because it's so overwhelming. There's so many
I think we're gonna be competing with other. Any day we do it, I think we're gonna be competing with other things going on. Yeah. We'll just have to pick a day, and then if you don't come to ours, then we'll know how you feel about it.
Priorities, man.
Yeah. Yep. When it descends into the apocalypse, we'll know who we can count on. Other than that, I've been writing a lot, trying to finish up Reaper 12 by November 11th. Push back my personal imposed deadline for Blue Sun Armada 3 until middle of December, just because I'm trying to go a little easier on myself because I've been very, very fucking tired from working nights lately. And that's about it. Things are cruising right along. Nothing interesting enough. I don't have a cool beard comb or anything I can use to soothe myself as negative, which I kind of wish I did. And so
my Discord server, I don't know, motto, whatever it's called. It says, what are you doing? And I'm like, probably combing my beard.
Probably stroking my face right now.
All I do.
Between there.
I used to have a pink one. Oh, I do have the pink one, and I would be meeting with, people that are way more important than me. And I'd be sitting here going like this. And Rhett would text me, can you put the pink comb away, please?
Very nice.
That's like Chuck sitting there doing this the whole show. And I'm like sending him messages in the meet. Stop with your pen.
Well, the comb is silent, so
it is, and you know what? It keeps my hands busy.
It's actually funny you say that because when I was sitting here working one day during this past fall break, and I had my office doors open, and I was doing that, and I was thinking about where I wanted to go with the story, and I'm doing this, and my daughter comes to the door, and she's like, "What is that noise?"
She's like on the other side of the house. You're driving me insane.
Leo says the charity where he sets his face on fire with a $50 shot and a moment of inattention. Oh, that's talking about Scott's fire mouth. Yeah,
that was from 20. Was that 2018?
2019.
Was it 2019?
2019.
That was a great night. That was great
because that was at the Delmonico.
Yes. Right after Matthew Mather set his face on fire, then I set Scott's face on fire, and that was
good. Yeah, I need to work on that trick. Mine wasn't quite as flamboyant as Matthew's because I remember him like and then the waiter's holding the lighter like I'm going to get fired.
The waiter's all confused.
Tell me about that story and leave nothing out.
Wait, have we never told you about that story?
No, that's another story.
Scott knows about that story.
I know the story.
Oh.
No, are you forgetting you're forgetting my story, Josh.
Which?
a certain someone that we just mentioned, whose name he'll just remain nameless, was talking to my wife at dinner one night. It was us, and it was like Nick Smith, and I don't know, and we're all talking, and I'm not paying attention to my wife's conversation. I'm having a conversation with David Bruns, I think, and my wife is squeezing my leg, and I'm like,
help me.
I'm like, hey, she's had a little wine. This is a good night.
Yeah.
And finally I turned to her and I'm like, is everything okay? Like, it just didn't dawn on me that there was an actual issue going on.
That was a distress call.
And the person talking to her was like, tell me how you met your husband and don't leave out any details.
I put that in like 3 books since then. And
I
leave nothing out.
I think he was like, I don't know, 17 whiskeys in for the night.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was. Anyway, that's just, is it leave nothing out? You put
like that.
You put it in all your books. So.
Yeah, I remember you saying, yeah, tell me how you met, leave nothing out. And so whatever I remembered, I put that in some scenes. And it makes me chuckle knowing nobody's going to get this but Steve.
I love it so much.
The first thing that Scott and I ever went to was Oklahoma Writers Federation Incorporated. Is that right?
Oklahoma Writers Federation Incorporated. OWFI. Yes.
And so the first day we're heading down in the elevator. We're by ourselves. There's nobody else in the elevator with us. We're going down, and we don't know anybody about that's there except for a couple of writers from Wichita. And I turn to Scott and I go, what if we like get in trouble or whatever? We need to have like some hand signals or a signal or whatever. And Scott out of nowhere goes, okay, I got it. The warning signal is going to be caca. And I lost it. I'm rolling out of the elevator as the door opens. And I'm like, every minute of the day, I'm thinking I should do it. I should do out of nowhere. Just do it.
We just ran into a couple of awkward conversations already by that point. But then we kind of fell in with a group and we went out to eat at that Italian place and we all drew pictures. Yeah. I think Tom, another writer, drew he drew dragons and like a dragon drawing competition.
Oh, yeah. What's his name? He wrote the fantasy books.
Barzak or something, I think. Barzak?
Yeah, Barzak, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it was good. I love the OWFI because it was my first conference I ever went to and the first one I ever pitched and had editors request more, to see more like you do back in the old school before Indie when you had they request more, you send them a few more chapters and see if they're interested. And of course I was pitching to the wrong people because they're mostly YA stuff because that's what was at the conference. But the feeling of having somebody request your work, and this is before indie publishing, was just amazing. I was like literally hovering above the ground. I was so happy. And it was just neat to be around writers and stuff like that. And so I've always had a special place in my heart, even though it's a really local one and it's very inexpensive. I'm not sure if they're going to have it this year or not. But
yeah, I don't know.
We used to go every now and then. So I like it. I like any time there's writers and group in one place.
Can't confirm.
Yeah.
Let's see. What have I been up to? I am working. I've locked on to a title for my new sci-fi series. The series is going to be called Weaponized, and then every book is going to have a single word title like Fury or Wrath. So it's going to be Weaponized Fury, Weaponized Wrath.
Is this Savage Stars, not Savage Stars?
Yes, Savage Stars, not Savage Stars.
Yeah. Josh, on our conversation yesterday, Josh is like, I finally came up with a name. It's like I got like Weaponized, and then I'm going to do Weaponized Fury and Weaponized WAP and Weaponized. And I heard WAP. And everything stopped for me, and he's still talking, and I'm like, "What weapon? What is the second one?" He's like,
sweating. Oh god.
He's like weaponized WAP, and I'm like, "What in the world are you?" And he just keeps talking, and I'm like, "What?" And I'm thinking this is one of those military terms that I just don't understand, and it's got to change. It has to change.
Totally military.
So wrath
with a TH.
Rap.
And then C8.
Yeah. Although that would be funny if we like turned in a funny manuscript title with that in there.
We had of course I'm in the church scene. We had a pastor, their congregation told him that it stood for worship and praise. And so he got up there on a Sunday morning. He's like, we're going to get ready for some WAP.
Oh my God.
That's a very cool joke. Yeah. That's like the meme where the mom that's cruel. Fantastic.
The WAP of Khan.
The WAP of Khan.
The WAP of Khan.
I think of Valor has been replaced.
Yeah. Well, Tom says weaponized valor of WAP. Weaponized whap of valor.
Oh man.
Of whapping echo. There's some echo going.
Is there an echo now? There is kind of.
Yeah, you're echoing, dude.
Who's echoing? Is it me?
I think it's you, man.
Hello.
Hello.
I haven't changed anything.
Man, there's people listening to this guy.
Yeah. Well, now we're not echoing. Now that Scott's muted his mic.
I don't hear anything.
Nope, we're still echoing. Hold on, I'm gonna mute Steve. Is this what's causing the echoing?
I
don't
think
hear
so.
the echo now. Do you
Yeah, I
hear the
think
echo?
it's Steve. I think it's Steve.
It's definitely Steve. Way to go.
The pink comb causes echo. Everybody knows
It's the pink comb.
Yeah.
The pink comb did it.
Pink comb.
Don't mute me. I'll mute myself. Don't you mute me.
Yeah. I've locked down on that title, so that's going to be the title for Savage Stars, not Savage Stars / Sentinel / Weaponized. I am like 40,000 words into it and getting back in the groove now. I've been sick for a couple of days and had some other stuff going on. I had my first Bane interview this last Saturday. It wasn't live. They do them pre-recorded. And I did it on a novel called The Romanov Rescue, which is it's a genre that had I known the so it was not like any type of military fiction that I've ever read. It's more of a procedural military book, and I went in kind of expecting action heavy book, and it wasn't that. But had I had this military procedural description in my head ahead of time, then I would have understood a lot better, and I would have gone in with a lot less confusion.
What do you mean by procedural military?
I went
get
in
like
thinking that it
police, but how would that work military?
He means actual procedures, not like
so
I mean, I get
not
it,
like a TV show's a procedure.
Instead of having like a lot of battles or a lot of like military like action, they're going through like logistics of like, how can we do this, how can we do that, like what do they need to do this, and it's based on it's a World War I alternate history book. So
they talk about we got to build a bridge across this river or whatever and go through the well, but the interesting thing is that the author was talking about when I talked to him, Tom Kratman, is a lot of the stuff that they were training for in the book in that point in history, no one had ever done yet. So for those guys, like doing like building clearing and like small, like close quarters conduct, like stuff that you would think like Navy SEALs would do or like Green Berets or something like that. In World War I, no one had done that before. Yeah,
so they had a whole section of scenes leading up to the battle, but it was like trial and error, trying to figure out what worked best and what didn't work. And it was super realistic.
Like before that was basically rush in and kill everybody.
Yeah, it was a blitz.
Yeah. So anyway, read that book, did the interview. I think that's going to be out next month sometime on the Bane free radio hour. What else? I watched Dune.
Yes, we did.
I watched that too. Yeah.
Scott, did you?
I did watch it actually twice.
Wow.
Because I went with my father-in-law to the theater, then my wife wanted to watch it. So actually, I watched like the last half of it with my wife, so like 1.5 times.
I really enjoyed it. No spoilers, and we don't have to get locked into it, but I really enjoyed it. I thought the pacing was good. I thought that it was, because Dune isn't like an action-heavy story anyway. It's kind of a methodic story, and I thought that they did a really good job capturing that with the film.
Can I just say that a movie based on a book that came out 60 years ago, I'm not sure we should be worried about spoilers.
Exactly.
Being honest, if you haven't read it in 60 years, F you. Let's talk about this.
I liked it.
You're right. That's true.
Yeah, it was great. I started listening to the audiobook again today because I was wandering to the bookstore trying to purchase myself a book, and I almost bought Dune, I thought. And I went to look at I already had the audiobook, so I listened to it, which I love because it's narrated by Simon Vance, but I didn't love because it's also narrated by like 18 other narrators, and they're all great. But I don't like the bouncing around of narrators personally. It's my own thing. But Simon Vance is one of my favorites, and so I started listening to it, and I'm listening to the open several scenes. And that book is written in omniscient, POV, which isn't done very much anymore, which is interesting. And the book is very like narrative heavy, I guess. So, and the movie's almost completely visual. So it's kind of impressive that you can even tell they're the same product, because the book is a lot of explaining of stuff through dialogue and different types of POV changes and info dumps. And there's lots of things in there that I think all the movies have kind of missed out on, because it talks about the Padishah Emperor and the Lancerat and all those things, and these kind of cool world building. We don't get that from any of the visuals.
Right.
I think Dr. Hines or whatever says she's going to tell the Lancerat one time. So it's one mention of the Lancerat, which is really important in the book.
Yeah.
See, I didn't. I read the books years and years ago. I tried to listen to the audiobook. I had a similar issue that you had. I don't really like more than a couple narrators. And for me, if it's going to switch narrators, I want it to be because it's switched point of view, not because not the dramatized type of thing. So it's hard for me to get into that. I mean, similar to most older books, I don't relate so much. The omniscient narration, the pay-per word, flowery style discussions and things like that. What I really actually loved about the movie is that you just sort of have to extrapolate information.
Yeah, it's really good that way.
Right. And I heard a lot of people say, well, I didn't understand it. And I don't quite get that. Right. Like, you could figure out what the houses are. You could figure out the things from the conversations.
You're talking about they didn't understand this movie?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically galactic Game of Thrones.
So it's interesting because I had a similar thought while watching it the other day. I was watching it with my kids, and I mean, they're older, my older kids, and the things that I knew that I picked up on right away, like when they start using the Fremen language and they start talking about like El Shagaib and all this other stuff, like they don't ever explain what that is in the movie in context of what they just say these words. And so my kids are like, what? And like the Lancerat or any of these other terms, they don't ever really explain them in the movie. And if you're coming to Dune, this movie, without reading the book, without seeing the other movies, with no context of anything, then I can see how it could be confusing.
A totally different experience, which I kind of envy in a way.
Right.
Well, to be fair, they did mention this. They mentioned the sandworm god at the very end, right?
True.
Yeah. The very end. And so
eventually you'll get it. Yeah.
I think there's this tendency for, like, I'll be honest, if my wife watched it, we'd stop it 37 times for her 100%. To ask me, what was that? What was that? And of course, my answer is always going to be, let's just see if they explain it. And 9 times out of 10, you get some kind of an explanation.
Right.
And obviously, they pulled out a lot of the stuff that, yes, mattered a whole lot to the book, but obviously the way they're creating this franchise on the movie, those things don't matter. Like, I could say the same of Harry Potter. You took all that out. Oh, that was so important to the book. But then you watch the movies and you go, oh, well, it wasn't really important to this particular.
Right. You say this, that was really important in the book, but this isn't a book.
Right.
That's exactly. So many the people, a lot of times hardcore readers, they want the same experience the book gave them from a movie, but they're just different mediums. You can't do it the same way. Otherwise the movie's going to suck.
I was reading a book on screenwriting years ago, and it talked about how a movie should not try to be a copy of the book. It should be, basically inspired or based on the movie, because it listed a whole bunch of examples of movies that had tried to do that exact thing, and they were super tedious and they failed horribly.
Exactly.
And stuff like that. So I think that's not a problem. I love the movie. There's a few things about it that have bothered me, and it bothers me about the book and all the movies, like when there's the big betrayal battle, when the Harkonnens move in. I'm like, you're telling me not one of these, some of the best military forces in the Empire, the Atreides, not one person was on duty with wearing armor. Right. Everybody was in their soft uniforms. I'm like, there wasn't one contingent of guards. Or like,
right, exactly.
It's a high danger area. Them going into the whole thing knowing that it's a trick. They knew that it was going to happen. They knew that it was a trick. So really why wasn't anybody ready for it?
They should have had defensive lines set up the whole.
Well, and Duncan can take out like 16 of these dudes all at once, but there's not also 15 other guys that can take out.
That can do that. Right.
Is it really
a whole bunch of Duncans? It'd be fine, but no.
Well, yeah, and if you read the books, Duncan Idaho is like literally a galactically legendary sword master. He has a really interesting backstory, but the other thing that bothered me in the movie that was very distracting is when I watched the first time, I missed a line, And when I watched that part the second time, I heard a line. It made it a lot more sensible. But I was like, when are they going to put on their still suits? Why won't they put on their still suits? They're so stupid. Why can't they do that? I know they're supposed to do that. Well, there's a scene where they first open the Frem kit. He says, there's no still suits. The one thing we need. Yeah. Well, I didn't hear that line the first time. And so I was massively frustrated. It was very distracting. For like the next 5 scenes, I was just gritting my teeth. If I had heard the line, me being half deaf is part of the problem.
Yeah, he says it real quick too. He says it really fast.
Well, so there's one other thing that I never really considered in the books that drove me absolutely mad watching this movie. And I will say, just blanket statement, I love the movie, right? I love it. This is source material issue more than it is the movie issue. Why do they have ships shooting missiles, but none of them have effing guns?
Right.
Yeah. Why are they using swords?
I think the force shield thing, it's basically, if I'm remembering correctly, it's a kinetic barrier. So a projectile moving really fast is just going to stop, but it's the slow blade that kills. That's why if you can hit them with a sword, you can guide it in and then cut them.
But wasn't there a thing? I thought that there was a thing in the book, in the lore, that talked about why there weren't any guns. I remember them.
I read it in high school. I can't remember.
Maybe that's why it didn't bother me in the books. And now
they explained at some point why they didn't have guns and why they had reverted back to like blade weapons, but I don't remember what that was.
Yeah. Rick is saying that it's the shields as well. And
that's what I thought it was. That's what I thought it was.
So one of the things that I thought was very interesting is there was no of the weirding guns, or what was they had these guns they were developing, like these sound weapons in books and in the first movie. Well, those are completely left out of this movie.
Well, but also bear in mind, this is a part 1. We don't know what they're gonna.
They were in that because they were training with that early in the book.
Yeah,
that was one of the secret things the Atreides were going to bring, and that the Fremen would eventually adopt and make him even more powerful. Is these weird?
Yeah, but at one point, didn't he have a gun? And they said,
but that was a Fremen gun, which confused me because he says you'll get one when you deserve it. So I don't know if they're just reversing that somehow.
Well, I watched a video this morning that was talking about kind of the big differences between the '84 movie and this movie, and they mentioned the weirding guns, and they mentioned that the 1984 one, they kind of made him real crazy and it was real corny, and I guess this guy that directed this one, he did, and they did that because they didn't want to focus on a lot of hand-to-hand fighting for that 1984 movie.
Yeah, everyone's saying in there it's the 1984 movie only, not the book.
Yeah. They also the sonic weapon, I had that wrong, and then Rick says the shield, the laser guns hit the shield, it causes a nuclear blast, which would be a problem in close personal combat. So
only because I know this was Scott misspeaking and not actually saying. Did you call them the Atreus? Because all I could see are big fluffy dogs or metal men.
I said Atreides, but I speak kind of too fast sometimes, and maybe it wasn't.
Yeah, because I want that movie now. Very
Atreus. I'm gonna, in my own book that I'm getting ready to come up with the idea for, Atreus will be the name.
Okay, so just because this is what we said we'd talk about, let's shift gears a little. Why don't we see?
Hey, I'm cool with talking about Dune a little more. If we want to do that, we can
sure.
Push on
okay, fine. That's it's your show, man. I'm just the intern.
No. Well, no, I think
very well paid intern.
Okay, John Evans, go to hell, John. John's correcting everyone ever. I was correcting Scott. Don't correct me when I was wrong. Ridiculous. Yes, I get it. Okay, damn it all. Fine, a bunch of horses or metal bands, whatever. Friggin' Falcor.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
Rick said earlier when we started talking about the differences, he didn't like the ending of this movie. Where was it?
It pretty much ends where part 1 of the book ends, though.
Just a break.
Yeah. I thought it could have ended in a better place. I actually thought that it was a really natural place to end it because it's Paul's ending of his royal.
His Atreides existence,
house line life, and then it's beginning his life with the Fremen.
It's
and
the point of return.
I thought that was a really good transition.
Back to or whatever.
Yeah,
first door. Yeah. It's the first door because he's making a declaration.
Now, are they doing 2 or 3 of these?
2.
I would bet only 2.
2. Okay.
And I was actually so I don't know if you guys picked any of this up before you watched the movie, but I had no idea that it was just a part 1 until I saw part 1 on the title.
Yeah, somebody told me that before I watched it. So I was
I was the same way. I didn't realize that until I saw the credits.
But I did like that they spent a lot more time like slowly building the characters. Like they spent a lot more time on Caladan. Like you got to see the planet, where in the first one you didn't really get to see the planet. I like the slow roll with the Bene Gesserit and all that other stuff. I mean, it was long and it was but I was expecting.
I didn't feel like it didn't feel that. I mean, I know it was 2.5 hours plus, but it didn't feel that long to me when I was sitting there watching it. Now that may have been the bourbon, I don't know, but
I watched it in 4 parts because I still have young kids, so I just watched it anytime I could watch 20 here and there.
My wife and I tried to watch like TV shows, and like 45-minute regular TV shows take us 3 hours to watch.
Yeah.
So we'll get through the opening credits. I need juice, and then somebody's throwing crackers at somebody, and we're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And then the kids come out, right?
Yeah.
And then the children eat something.
100%.
I had one of the things I brought up with my in-laws we were talking about. My father-in-law really is a fan of the movie too. And I was like, I hope it does well because I want there to be more high-quality science fiction and fantasy movies.
Exactly.
And apparently it's doing very well financially. One of the things that wore me out, the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack, but at times during all the slower scenes, and plus the theater I went to, it was extremely loud. I mean, like I think I lost a filling, from the sound vibrations. But I was getting very exhausted by the soundtrack.
I watched it at home. I watched it on streaming, and I kept having to turn it up and turn it down because I couldn't hear them talk. But every time the music came on, I had to turn it down because
the score seemed to swell a lot more than the dialogue.
Yeah. It's hard to watch it when you have kids trying to sleep in the next room and you keep having to turn the volume up and down so you don't wake everybody up.
Your wife's throwing crackers at you,
right? Yeah, getting juice and throwing crackers. I can't say much about this, but I have some conversations going with some folks. Anyway, let me say this. Netflix, Amazon, Apple, they're all looking for sci-fi right now. I don't say that to encourage every indie author to try to send something to their legal team, right? Because that's not how it works. But like that, you said something about, we want more high quality. That's exactly what they're after as well. And they want the really high end, like it's going to cost a buttload of money to make this projects. So I think we're on the way there.
Yeah, it's a supply and demand issue. In 1980, apparently there wasn't much demand for quality science fiction or fantasy because we had none. And I was very sad. But now there's a big demand because all of us that were wanting it now are like, I guess, spending a lot of money on movies, apparently.
Well, like The Expanse is really the one that I think did it. It's what we've heard of, when everyone saw the success of The Expanse.
How the success of good science fiction done well. I think
there's multiple levels to that. Right? And Hollywood shut down, so we haven't gotten to that point yet because nobody was doing anything for 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But now they're back in buying mode and trying to figure out what the next big thing's going to be.
Patricia Gillen brought up the B5 reboot, and I'm conflicted about it, but I think if done right, it could really be cool.
But that's true for pretty much everything. If they do it right,
I think that if you left out, like you could take out some of the filler episodes from season 1, kind of drop off the back half of season 5, and just condense all the rest of those seasons into a really good sweeping narrative. Add like really high quality production. I think you'd have a really good series. That's just me, though. I love B5. I'm a B5 fanatic.
Yeah, that was great. That was one of the great ones.
Did they use paper in B5?
So now that we're going to talk about the rest of the show, let's talk about actual cool stuff.
Yeah, what does everybody in the chat think we should talk? Well, not we. You guys should talk about at the podcasting thing. What are you going to do? Are you just going to tell folks how to set up a podcast? What's the plan?
I've thought about that a little bit, and I think it will depend on
who's there,
like who's actually there at the panel.
Is it just going to be you guys, or is it going? Are you going to have other podcasters on the thing?
I think. Well, I was specifically meaning the audience. but I think Lindsay Broker is going to be there. Us. There's somebody else.
There's somebody else who's a big name, but people are speculating they might not come because they have to travel a long ways and they may not want to do it because of all the COVID bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll kind of depend on the audience, right? Because you can look at it from two perspectives and say, like, what do you want to do a podcast on, or how do you do the podcast? Like the actual the equipment or logistics or whatever, then how do you do it? But I think it could go like a couple of directions. And I mean, we do a podcast, but it's also a live show, and so that adds another level of intricacy to our show that some shows don't have. Like, you just
are most of them pre-recorded? Like when I did Story Shots, I just recorded it and then I put it up.
I would say probably 95% of podcasts are pre-recorded podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah, so I stayed up the last couple of weeks. You know, I do a lot of things to stay awake at night, and after a certain point, I was searching a bunch of YouTube videos, and every video I found on writing was one person talking about how to write or how to market like that, and it was all pre-recorded. There were very few I saw that were in our format. Actually, there were none that were in our format that I found.
And
go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
I was just saying, Ken had an interesting point there. He said, how about how not to podcast?
Hey, we have
like 5 years of that.
Yeah.
Don't do what we do.
We master that.
You know, I don't know. It'll, like I said, I think it'll be. I think we'll start off talking about kind of how and why we started, and then figure out from the audience what they want to know about. Because I mean, I can pick a topic on podcasting and go for 30, 40 minutes, but if that's not what they want to hear, then I've just wasted my breath and wasted a whole bunch of prep time. It's podcasting is, I mean, we haven't been doing it right for 6 years, and I don't think we're going to change. We're not going to change that at all.
What's right? I mean, you know, that's
the thing is, our podcast has really developed into kind of a community, and I think I'd rather have that than what a lot of people are trying to do.
Yeah,
kind of these soulless numbers counts of how many ticks and likes they got, but really, we have actually real life connections with a lot of the people that on the show. Most that we met, we made lots of networking to Athon and other writer places. We would not have probably had those connections without all the networking that came through via the show. Yeah. So that's one of our hugest takeaways.
Yeah. And we do one of the major don't do's, which is, well, recently we have most of the last 6 seasons we've been every week, which is consistent, but consistency is the most important thing with podcasts. And also maintaining, I think Lauren and Kayleen do a way better job than we do of maintaining content and growing content. I mean, they're having the Critical Drinker on in November. I think that's amazing. Richard Fox is going to be on with him, I think. They've had that guy Shad, what's his name? Who's got he's got a huge YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Shadiversity. I kind of consider this season for us kind of an off season, and maybe season 7 we'll kick back up with the big interviews and do that kind of thing. But I've had a lot of fun this year, just kind of chilling and hanging out and talking about whatever comes up that week. And like you said, Scott, just kind of chilling with the community. It kind of gives you an hour of hanging out with friends and doing whatever you want to do. But
we
it's
have a conversational format, and our shows are very long. The writing journey is much more focused on answering specific questions in a non-fiction format. We want to solve problems, and that's why I think theirs is a little bit better than ours in that case. But I really love our show, and I would be sad without it. So I guess we probably won't change much.
Well, and now Athon has started their own. It's not really a podcast. It's just like a video segment interview that they're doing with their authors.
Yeah, we're doing every Tuesday for the past year or so. I say every, but it's more like what Keystroke does.
Every-ish.
I did a live unboxing of it, just as Tuesday live new releases. Here's what we're doing, and then I got overwhelmed with life and kids and writing and crap. And we recently a good buddy of mine that lives right here around the corner, John, came to work for us, doing various things. As a matter of fact, the whole goal that bringing him on had a lot to do with us starting up Athon Games, which, by the way, we're doing a Kickstarter to get that business portion started in about a week or so.
Nice.
I
Our
didn't
first
even know you were doing that, man.
It's a drinking game companion to D&D called Dungeons and Flagons. And
I'm down. I don't even care. I don't even care. I'm down.
I will run that online for us.
It is a brilliantly fun. John basically developed it, and then I stepped in to help finish it up and get it right. And so anyway, John came on with that, and then we went, okay, what else do we need done? And of course, I've been talking to Josh for 2 years now about us growing and like, I don't know how to handle this or that. And like, eventually I'm gonna have to bring someone on, and we didn't know how to do that. And sort of the situation with John just fell in our laps, and we went, okay, how about we do everything just all together, everything all at once. And so one of those things was John really enjoys, he's a videographer and he's a DM. And so one of the things was, how about every Tuesday you do an interview, which is what I ultimately wanted to do. I wanted to interview authors. I wanted to say, here are our new books. And so John took it and run. I said it one time and John's like, I'll do that. And then next thing I know, every Tuesday he's got this thing set up, and I'm like, sweet. I like that. Hands off is good for me because I am swamped 24/7.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, he does a really good job. I caught the one with it wasn't last. Huh?
Jaime McFarlane?
No, I think it was
Gilbert.
That's the one. Yep, I caught that one. He did a really good job. He was really comfortable behind the microphone. Asked really good questions. I
ran a D&D session with some of our bigger lit RPG, soon to come lit RPG authors. He ran a D&D session like, I don't know, 2 days ago. I guess it was Saturday.
Yeah.
And it was cool. We had a blast.
Nice.
Like it was online. It was a video. I mean, they did a video.
Like Roll20 or something?
Like Roll20, yeah.
Yeah.
What well, while we're on the topic of Athon, what other stuff you guys got going on? Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to share? Or?
You know, I know we put out a call in KSM the other day for sci-fi, really military sci-fi space opera. We're not incredibly picky, but like we wanted to be specific that we're not looking for like, I don't know, time travel sci-fi or, you know, whatever, just because.
Right.
Why did you do that? I thought you guys were swamped with the submissions.
We are swamped with, we have become, I hesitate to say this because I know there's other publishers out there that would maybe argue they are, but I think we've become the biggest, if not one of the biggest lit RPG publishers around. And so because of that, we get tons and tons and tons of lit RPG submissions.
Oh, I see.
What we're lacking a little bit is super high quality military sci-fi and space opera. We sort of filled up this year, and Rhett and I just started taking a look at 2022, and we're like, okay, what is going on for 2022? And we had a ton of like lit RPG and some fantasy, and we just felt we were lacking in what really, I mean, we started Athon with the heart for military sci-fi, space opera, science fiction, and we don't want to lose that. So we want to make sure that and KSM is always my first place to go because like Scott said, this is a community that I belong in. You know, although I only post every now and then in the group, I'm a lurker. I'm always in the group reading what everybody's doing. I'm always reading the chat to see what's going on. And so anyway, it's family to me. I would rather work with family than random Twitter find. New Twitter people. Honestly, like it's easier this way because I know everybody here.
Yeah,
Leo asks, what
that.
about contemporary sci-fi? What are you guys looking at for that?
Leo, I guess I would have to. I'd have to hear what that is. Historically, sort of that near future sci-fi thing isn't really our forte or fort, depending on if you are actually French and you pronounce it correctly. But that said, it's what it is.
What about cyberpunky type stuff?
I'll be honest with you, cyberpunk just doesn't sell.
Does it not? Really?
No. Somebody asked the question in the chat when I put the submission out there, somebody asked the question, was that where it was? I think Patricia maybe said, what's one thing that you wish all your authors or all the authors knew or whatever?
Oh, yeah, that was in there, yeah.
And my response was, I just wish that authors would pay attention to what kinds of books sell. And, you know, even on our Facebook or on our website, we have this little thing that says, you know, we want groundbreaking, blah, 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 blah. But the reality is readers don't. The reality is readers want very similar stories that have different
Okay, so as an ignorant author who spends most of his time with his nose in his own world, how do you know what sells if you're not following the trends?
We have to follow the trends, right? So I check the top 100 of Amazon 15 times a day. Now that's my job, right? I check all the categories. If I were an author, I'd probably check them less. I should say if I was only.
Do you use any apps like Kindle Spy or anything like that?
No, I just go on and I check the top 100s in the categories that we belong in. I do that on Amazon. I do that on Audible. After a while, you start to learn, you start to learn which ones sell because the author wrote them. Like we get all of these outlier type questions all the time. When Dead Acre went nuts, everyone all of a sudden thought maybe I should write weird Westerns. And they'd email me, hey, I'm working on a weird Western. Do you want it? And my answer very point blank was no, I don't. Because if I'm being honest with you guys, like Dead Acre didn't sell because it was a weird Western. It sold because we made a lot of right decisions all at the right time to create something that sold.
Yeah, you got the total package. And so let me ask you this before I forget. So when you jump on there, you're reviewing all the titles in your genre. And then so what type, now you're looking at hundreds of titles. So obviously you're not spending hours on every one. So what do you do? Do you like read the first bit, read the synopsis, look at the cover? What are the key things that people should be looking at?
Well, I mean, first of all, let's be frank. I take anything that has the name Cheney or Nick Cole and Jason Anspach, and I go, this is because it's their names. If it's Audible, I go Jeremy Robinson. I don't care what he wrote. It's because Jeremy Robinson wrote it. That goes over here. So I take all those big names and I go, they're selling because there's a continual churning of the wheel, and it's feeding the
huge audience that is dedicated to dipping into those types of things.
J.N. Cheney could put out literally anything he wants right now, and it would sell. Jeremy Robinson has proven he can put out anything he wants right now. He's the only author I know of that can consistently put out standalone novels that go to like the top 100 on Audible every single time.
Who's narrating his stuff?
It's always R.C. Bray or Jeff Kafer.
Gotcha.
Right. So and again, you look at that and you go, there's nothing, not taking anything away from Jeremy. Don't misunderstand, but there are reasons things sell the way that they sell. And it's not always the obvious answer if you're not really paying attention. So we'll look at that and I'll knock off all the J.N. Cheney stuff. I'll knock off all the Galaxy's Edge stuff. And then you parse it down to what's left. And then of course I take out all the Aethon stuff. If it's got a bird on it, I know why those things sold. So what's left at that moment? There's about 5 books left in the top 100 after you take all that stuff out. Then you have to look and see, well, is there a sale going on for that particular book? Because
what's the price?
Yeah, if it's 99-cent countdown, that means they've got a lot of promo going on. So it's not actually in the top 100. It's made it into the top 100. And over the course of a day or two, it's going to fall back out of there. Right. Because regardless of what you've been told, like books don't stick once they pass their prime, right? Like there are very rare moments where the book bub will allow a book to have brand new life and it'll take on, actual sales.
I think Joe Solari has a really good metaphor on this, is that when you launch a book or do a big promo, it's kind of like something floating in a lake. So you've given it some unnatural buoyancy and its natural predilection, I don't know, tendency is to sink to where its natural buoyancy is, and you've risen it. And so most things, you launch a book and they immediately sink to wherever they're going to float at.
Yep. And so we always look at the stick moment, right? Like we don't look at how high it went. Of course, the higher it gets, the better visibility it has, but we don't get excited until a book sticks.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, just to finish up that, we take away all those things that are the unnaturals. And then, yes, we'll take a look at everything from the cover. Did this sell because it was a really badass cover, which is a lot of the time it does. And then you look at the reviews and see if those are in congruency with, is it right? And then we just look at the subgenre, right? You could always look at the categories, kind of see why it is where it is. But I would suggest that all authors that are looking to kind of up their game and what's the next step, if you're writing books that no one's buying, Listen, I wrote a superhero series knowing that no one buys superhero books.
I enjoyed that series.
Thank you very much. But I own Athon Books. I could do whatever the hell I want, right? Like,
right.
To be honest, for 2 seconds, arrogance gone, right? I'm allowed to write what I want to write now because writing is not my primary form of income. If your primary form of income, your goal is to be writing, don't write weird stuff.
Right.
It's not going to help you. Nobody goes, ooh, this looks really unique. I want it. It doesn't happen. There's not really unique stuff out there that people.
I think it also depends where you're at in your writing journey. So if you're at the point, because the first most important thing is to write something, and so maybe you write your passion, and then as you progress, you build your muscles, and then you want to like be more right to market. Then it'll be easier than if you just start writing to market, because that'll be really hard.
Right. Well, Rick Partlow's in the chat. Here's a really good example. Rick Partlow has written 42 something military sci-fi books. Rick Partlow is a name that anybody in the industry should know at this point, and if they don't, they're not paying attention. Rick could write whatever he wants. Rick wants to write epic fantasy. Rick shouldn't write epic fantasy.
He needs to strike while the iron is hot.
I mean, again, if it's a career thing for you, you just continue doing what you know works. And I'm not telling you can't have any artistry or anything like that. If Rick could manage to write an epic fantasy without sort of slowing down what he's already doing, that's great. But there's no guarantee that the name Rick Partlow is going to transfer over to epic fantasy. As a matter of fact, I could say with almost all certainty it won't.
That's what pen names are for.
Right. And then you're starting over. You might as well not do it all. There's just so many metrics that go into it that you go, okay, what do I do now?
Well, and that being said, like you mentioned, if you're at a point in your author career, or you don't have an author career and you're just writing, if you're not worried about the money, write whatever you want.
Yeah.
And enjoy what you're doing and write the best story that you can write. Because writing for the business of writing and writing for the love of writing are two completely different things. And I think a lot of times
they can't
in
hold
the
hands.
community, everything gets wrapped into the business of writing and making money and making as much money as fast as you can. And sometimes people aren't all about that. I mean, money's great. Money helps a lot when you're trying to do things like eat. But I always
your main focus. There are easier ways to make a living. That's for sure.
100%.
Well, it also ties into the emails that we get all the time where authors are like, I know this will sell because it's really good, right? And their first thing is they're talking their own book, telling me how great their book is. But the second thing is, this is the number one advice I give to everyone. Books don't sell because they're good.
Nope.
Books get good reviews because they're good, which ultimately leads to more sales.
That helps.
If you can't market a book, you can't sell a book.
Yeah, somebody's got to find it to realize it's a good book.
It's a mashup between, I don't know, Star Wars and Bonnie and Clyde meets, I don't know, Gone with the Wind. And you're like, it's so, it's great. And you're like, okay, but I don't know what to do with that.
If you want an example of how crazy publishing is, how crazy writing books is, and how you can make money, you take 50 Shades of Grey that we mentioned earlier as a joke, and look how much money that book series made that off.
It's very cool, right?
Like $1 billion freaking dollars or some
Terrible
nonsense
writing.
like that. And they are, like, from a writer's perspective, they are poorly written. They don't really have a whole lot of plot. And it's just a whole bunch of go ahead.
I was waiting till you're done. That's why I was raising my hand.
Oh.
When's the last time you saw a porno with a really good plot?
Well, no, that's my point. Like,
they
found a niche and they marketed that to the right audience.
Some sort of
sold
weird
a
attraction.
crap ton of books.
Exactly.
And it doesn't have anything to do whether it's a good book or not, because they found the niche, they found the market, and they pumped that market as hard as they could, figuratively speaking, literally
word choice.
phrasing. And they sold it, and it's like Steve said, you hit that. You find what sticks, and then you just shove a whole bunch of money at it, and it's going to sell. So, I mean, I would say first and foremost, write what you want. And then if you're writing middle sci-fi or space opera, send Steve an email at Athon Books and say KSM in the headline or in the first in the subject line or in the thing, and say, hey, I'm with KSM. Check out my submission. You're going to get bumped to the front of the line. I'm not saying he's going to pick it up,
No,
I'm not
but,
saying it's
but
going to make $1
also,
billion, but it'll help you out.
To Chuck's point, we get about 150 submissions a week, right? Like we're not sitting here going, dang it, I really need stuff. So please don't ever think that when I hop into KSM, it's because we're desperate. It's because we want the opportunity to. I mean, listen, Rick Partlow's from KSM. Rick Parlow is one of our greatest sellers of all time. Scott and Josh have put out series with us that I think did very well. Did they do as well as maybe we all want all the time? No, but like you do what you do, and you.
Yeah, sure.
Well, the thing is so like my series with you guys, it did amazing compared to how it would have done if I did it myself. I mean, definitely a success in my opinion on that.
I agree.
Was it Rick Partlow huge? No, everybody wants to be there.
Very rarely are.
Yeah, and you told me that once, so that's pretty rare, and there's lots of different things that go into that. But kind of to sum up what we're talking about, though, is you have to love what you're doing, or it's too hard. And then if you can then also do the genre analysis, or somehow just be lucky enough to write in that genre and find your audience, then good things can happen.
100%. I'm going to have to change the title of this episode because we ended up not really talking about podcasts.
We really did. I tried to steer you in that direction, but you steamrolled right over me.
Listen,
going over
can you really rein this horse in? You really can't. No, it just does whatever it wants
to
do.
Like herding meth out cats.
There is a question from Corey Gillen we should probably do since we're here with Steve.
Yeah. So how do you want those submissions sent to you, Steve, if we're talking about our group?
So there is a submissions guideline on www.athonbooks.com. It's under the About section. It says submissions. Off the top of my head, I'll be honest, I don't remember what all of them are. I do know that it's 50 pages. I don't know if we specify this in there, but like Times New Roman, 12-point, double spaced. Like that's just kind of standard, industry standard. Like
you should know that. Yeah.
Everyone should know that if you're writing. I would suggest everyone Google like how to do a submission anyway before you start submitting places. But so it's a 50-page with a cover letter that tells us basically what the story is, a little bit about you. If you're a crazy person, go ahead and just let us know ahead of time. We'd love to know if you're crazy. So it's just at the top, just say, just so you know I'm crazy, and then give us your Twitter.
Just so you know, I wrote this without paying for comments.
You get a lot of crazy, Steve.
You know what? Since this is like, you don't know who I'm talking. Yes. Yes. I could write, I could put a book together of just cover letters that we have received that Rhett and I look at and go, what the
I would probably read that book.
if they're sending as part of the submission deal that you're asking for, do you want them to put KSN in the subject line?
Oh yeah.
See it?
I don't know that. Well, yeah, subject's probably great because then it really makes sure that it gets seen instead of being the first line.
Okay. Tom wants to know if he can send it in original crayon.
Yeah, I was going to make a Marine joke, but I'll leave it alone. Please do.
Purple Comic Sans font.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway.
Well, Steve, thanks for coming on and hanging out with us at short notice, man.
It was like 1:58, and I'm like, "Where's my link? I want to."
Everybody that hung out with us today in the live chat, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't know that we really made any big difference on anyone's lives today, but it was sure fun as hell to do. If you're listening on the audio version of this show,
so that should help.
What's that, Scott?
So we pumped Rick's ego quite a bit. So, I mean, deservedly so, but that should make him feel good. He should be like hovering because we all worship his greatness.
Wake him up a little bit for that long drive he's done.
That's right.
Yeah.
Actually told us he's on the toilet right now writing an epic fantasy book.
On his
and he said he was serious. That really is what he's doing, and I don't like that. Probably true.
I tried.
Does that mean it's going to be a shitty manuscript?
But I'm
flushing.
If you're listening on the audio version of the podcast, you need to know we do a live show every Monday-ish, or every couple of weeks, or every 3 weeks, or depending on how the month rolls. Here on YouTube, Keystroke Medium, you Google that and you'll get all of our stuff. We have coffee for sale, which is phenomenal. I forgot to show this prop earlier. I showed it in the pre-show. I got this in the mail.
Nice.
Special edition. Maybe we should come up with some new Keystroke shirts. Maybe that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for listening and watching the show and hanging out with us. We will be back next week, probably ish, to talk about reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. Peace.
Later, guys.